No matter what you do, it's never enough. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever been sitting, driving your car, lying in bed, or just sitting quietly thinking to yourself, why am I not further along than I am? What's happening? Why am I not where I want to be? Why am I not where I should be? Some of these words that we say to ourselves are actually the reasons why we are not further along than we are right now. So, here is my goal today. My goal is with this episode, we are going to change the way you see and interpret expectations, the expectations you have of yourself, the expectations you have of others, and society's expectations of you. Welcome back, everyone, to a Mindset Medicine podcast. I am your host, Catherine Lucadu, and I am a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I have an educational background. I was a professor in university. I taught communication. I've taught business. I've owned businesses from Europe all the way to Canada and online. So I have been able to experience what it means to start up, create that big idea, put it into action, then market, then brand, and so on. And I've actually done that over and over. I have never purchased ready businesses. I've always started them from the ground up. Maybe I am I don't know, maybe I just like the torturous feeling of starting something on my own. But to me, it feels very personal. So that's what I do. And today, what I've noticed as an entrepreneur over 30 years and as someone who has been educating other people is the amount of crushing weight expectations can have on us. Have you experienced that? Where you have set such a high bar for yourself, or you have set the expectation limit so high that even you could not possibly attain it without having guidance and tools and a strategy and a blueprint. But what we don't realize is sometimes we just don't have that knowledge to go ahead and do that. It can be lonely. It can be really lonely having this weight of expectations on our shoulders. And not only do we put it on ourselves, but as I mentioned, we have society, we have the people around us. And then we also have the expectations that we have of other people. And are they realistic? So we're going to dive into all of that today because I think it's a really important subject and topic to discuss. Oh, got runny nose today. Allergy season, goodness. So, what is this inner dialogue of self-criticism that we have? What is really going on within us? So, when no one's watching, have you at times felt that you are failing yourself? You are failing your family. You are failing the expectations that you had set for yourself. And you may already be hitting milestones. You are achieving awards. You are highly successful, closing deals. Maybe you're launching products. Maybe you're starting new businesses yourself. But this inner critic that we have is relentless. And particularly if you're a high achiever, if you're someone who's highly ambitious, this voice inside you may be louder than it is for other people. Why am I not doing more? Why isn't this working? Why aren't I, here where I should be? If you wrote a book, why isn't the book selling more? It should be. Or if you sold a product, or if you're in the real estate industry, why haven't I sold more houses by now in my career? Why aren't I busier in my business? These questions that we torture ourselves with. The problem is that the more we push The more we swim against the current, the more consumed we are by self-doubt. So let's dig a little deeper into that. So we fall into this trap of self-judgment, and there is no room for rest, it seems, as an entrepreneur, because we always feel like we should be doing more. And it takes a huge emotional and psychological toll on us and our bodies. If you have been going around and maybe you have been experiencing health issues, digestive issues, headaches, tiredness, exhaustion, but you're really not working all that hard. If you were to be completely honest with yourself, you really do have some time during the day where you have an hour here, maybe 2 hours. Yet at the end of the day, you feel exhausted. This is the emotional toll of having this weight of expectations on you. And the reason I can speak to this is because I have done it to myself for 30 long years. The bar I have set for myself throughout my life has been extremely high. You know, at 22, when I moved to Europe, it wasn't enough for me to have the one job because I needed to pay rent. And here I was in this foreign country with a job that I was working 6, 7 hours a day, but it wasn't enough. So I got a second job. Well, technically speaking, between those two jobs, I could pay my bills. But on top of that, I decided that I would also private tutor students for extra money. So the toll that I was putting on myself physically was actually good. It was great. But at 22, I really didn't think about it. What started happening, though, as I started understanding the education system in Europe, I thought to myself, well, what if I were to move to a higher caliber school and get paid more? And then I would develop my reputation. It's a perfect strategy. Great. But here's what I didn't do. I still kept the second job and the third job while also teaching full time at this new high caliber school that I got into. And then after 2 years, I said to myself, well, what if I could actually go even a step further and move into the next high caliber school, which was almost like a country club. Very important people in the country sent their children there. Very high expectations of the teachers. And I mean, very high, where failure was not allowed. It was not an option. And so every student in the class had to pass. And you had to figure out how that was going to happen, right? And there were exams, external exams. And if you are listening from Europe, you understand what GCEs are and the various levels of GCE. So when teaching in those classes, my students had to do well if I was going to keep my job. So the expectations upon me from the school were huge. And the expectations from the parents who weren't necessarily disciplining their children at home, and this was in high school now, again came upon me to discipline their children in my classes. And then there was the expectation of myself. You know, Catherine, you have to help all of these students. Now imagine you have a class of 30 high school students and you have 6 sections of these students. And this is before I got my master's degree in education. So here we are teaching six classes of 30 students, 180 students per term. And they all have to do well. Yet we have probably 10 different learning styles within this classroom. And it was a challenge. And so therefore the expectations that I put upon myself were very high. Fear of failure is a real thing because sometimes your job depends on you not failing. And if you do feel as though you are moving toward failure or something hasn't worked out, it's highly disappointing, it's highly frustrating, and sometimes you can tie your entire self-worth to that expectation you've put on yourself. So what does that do for you? Well, you may not notice it when you do it the first time, and you may not notice it when you do it the second time. But as this builds over time, over years, over experiences, it will start to break down what you believe are your confident decision-making skills. Well, can I actually do that because it didn't work before? Or, do I want to try this new idea? What if it doesn't work? So now you start second guessing yourself. When we run a business, we are the decision makers of that business. When you are launching a product, when you are writing a book, you are the one deciding what that topic looks like, what that product looks like, the marketing, and so on. You are always in judgment of yourself. Is this a good idea? Should I go in this direction? Should I listen to this person's opinion on the direction that I should be going? There are times when we do consult people and it just doesn't feel like it is aligning with who we are and what we're doing, but we do it anyway. What will happen in that case is we start to veer further apart from who we really are. We start to move further from the alignment to why we started doing that in the first place. So let's talk about business. You start a business. You have this passion. You have this purpose of why you're doing it. You have a strategy. I hope it's been researched. I hope it is appropriate for what you're doing. So whether that is launching a book, whether that is opening an online business, whether it is a service-based business, it is important that you have everything lined up because that will add to your confidence and it will add to your decision-making. And you also know why you're doing it. So here is what happens when you are not in alignment with your ideas, when you are not in alignment with why you started doing something in the first place, or where you feel is best for your business to go. Now, I'm not going to talk about, well, what if you don't have the knowledge yet? Let's not go there. Let's just talk about the constant judgment of yourself. If you are constantly living in front of a mirror, and it's a hypothetical mirror, judging yourself, what happens is you will have emotional burnout. And emotional burnout is psychological and emotional exhaustion, which is where your tiredness, your aches, your pains, your headaches, all of that is coming from. It is because you are constantly evaluating and reevaluating every decision that you make, every thought that you have. Possibly the internal words and voices that you're using are not motivating you to move forward. If the words you are using internally are toxic, that will not help you to think clearly, to feel energized, because at no point when we feel negativity or have negative, toxic internal dialogue, will you feel motivated. Here is what I would like you to do. I would like you to start rewriting the dialogue going on inside your head, that voice. It's time to restart and rewire it. And I want to ask you to ask yourself, what am I chasing? What is it that I really want? Does this align with what I wanted to do in the first place? Or have I somehow been sidetracked into another person's vision, another way that I thought is the way that I should go? Are my standards too high? Are my standards too low for what I am trying to achieve? Do you know that more often than not, The standards and the limiting beliefs that we are setting for ourselves are too low. We are giving ourselves a way out. We are allowing ourselves to sit in a comfort zone where we won't get hurt and failure won't happen in that, comfy place. And the problem is that that may be the reason also why your business isn't moving ahead, or you're not feeling happier in life because you're playing it too safe. Let's move on to those external reasons why we feel pressure to keep up. There was this expression when we were young, keeping up with the Joneses. And it was, am I doing things that are resonating with everybody else? Do I fit in with everyone else? So how does society shape our image of success? We are bombarded right now on social media with images of people doing very well and success and jets and money and a lot of social media influencers who are showing you a way of life that many people say, oh my gosh, I would love to be living like that. I would love to have a marriage like that. I would love to be in a relationship like that. And all of this, all of these images that we're seeing are just the highlight reel of what's actually going on in those people's lives. It's a highlight, but we get so captured and enthralled in these images that as we scroll, it's one after another, because obviously the algorithm understands what your eyes and what you're scrolling and where you stop. I have a little story about that. Actually, let me just cut to that story for a moment. So I downloaded a program because I wanted to see how a course that I have created is doing. And this particular app is able to watch the behavior of people on one of the pages. And it was interesting to see that you could actually see the scroll. You could see where people stopped and paused. You could see where people had clicked. It was all there. And, I turned to my husband and I said, imagine that companies like Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, they all have this built in to their platforms. So they know where we're pausing. They know where our eyes are moving to. They know what we're clicking on. They know where we want to see more and read more about what we're doing. They know when we're reading comments, when we're not, when we are engaging in a post, when we're not. And then they just show us more. So when we know this is going on and we know that we are being fed more of, what's really important is that you become intentional about what you're looking at. So if you have begun to understand that these social media images are really making you feel bad about where you are in life, then you need to start hiding those images from yourself, because otherwise you'll just keep getting more of them. So if we are always comparing our life, our messy life, which we think doesn't measure up to what else is going on out there in society, you're very wrong, because what you're watching are just the highlights of what is going on elsewhere. The result of this is making us feel like a failure. We don't measure up. Well, look at them. They're 20 something and they have a jet. I'm 40 something. What have I created in my life? Where am I right now? How can a 20-year-old something be doing that and I'm in my 40s and I haven't yet gone there? Or I'm in my 30s and I have yet to, fill in the blank. A lot of it is a myth. I have learned over the years. A few years ago, there was this concept where sleeping 4 hours a night, 3 hours a night, 5 hours a night, that is what winners do. That is what the successful people do. And if you don't only sleep 4 hours a night and get up at 4 a.m. and start doing everything that you're doing, well, then you're not going to be successful. When we hear these myths, the hustle culture myth, here is what's missing in that story. What's missing are the multiple naps that those people were taking during the day. What's missing is that they were going to bed at 7 or 8 p.m. in the evening. Well, if you have a family, if you're running a business, everything doesn't just shut off at 7 p.m. so you can go to bed and wake up at 3. But what can happen is that you fall into this idealistic hustle culture that if I'm not getting up at 3 or 4, am I really productive? Will I really have an amazing, successful day like they are? The more we sacrifice because we think that is the right thing to do, because that's what society is expecting us to do, the more you're living in that lie. And the more, I have observed over the years, and this is one of the things that maybe that's why I went into education. Maybe that's why I take a fascination to mindset and psychology and sociology. Maybe that's why I am highly interested in people, is because I have observed people for so long. And I can almost say to myself, I don't need the research to tell me that there's no way you're waking up at 3 a.m. and you are alive and kicking and energetic and motivated all day long. It is a fallacy. But if you do not stop to observe what's going on and you just take what you see as face value, you will feel like a failure. You will not feel motivated. You will feel like I am not measuring up to this idea of what success is supposed to be or should be. And funny thing about a lot of people who were posting all of these ideas is, as they have been aging and getting older, and maybe their plates are getting fuller, they now understand how important rest and sleep is. And so now a different story is being spun. That's why understanding who you are, understanding what makes you work, is really important when you are an entrepreneur. If you know that your body needs 7, 8 hours of sleep, then you need to get that so that you are functioning at your very, very best every day. If you know that you work best in the morning or you work best at night, then that's what you need to do. Don't fall into what other people are doing or say is the right way. It's not the right way, it's their way. So we need to understand these differences of the expectations that we're putting on ourselves. If we are watching from society, is it a story that we have created that we think are society's expectations of us? Or are they, in fact, society's expectations of us? Because don't forget, our vision of what we see may not necessarily be how everything is. And I know that sounds very philosophical and a little bit out there, but it's true. Just because you think something doesn't necessarily mean it's true, does it? It's important to go deeper. It is important to ask yourself, does this align with who I am, who I want to be, where I want to go, and what I want to accomplish? And at that point, you will know if something is right for you, what expectations you will decide you want to have for yourself, what expectations you will decide that you have for other people. Is there a breaking point? Is there a guilt that happens? How do we juggle the expectations, for example, of family with your expectations of what you want for yourself? What your family doesn't always see is the internal battle that you have going on. And as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, have you ever been consumed by a project that you're working on, by a passion that you're trying to create or follow? I mean, you just feel it inside you and you just want to work on it and you're thinking about it all the time. But what happens is your family doesn't necessarily see that or understand it. All they see is you may be being distant, or you look like you're plagued with something that is just on your mind. So the guilt of not being fully present in your family's life will also start to weigh on you. So now we just have the weight piling on the shoulders as an entrepreneur. And we're wondering why we get to our desk or wherever you do your work and you're not highly motivated, or you don't have the clarity that you wish you did. It's because you have all these different forces around you. At some point, it almost feels like there's no room left for you to win in any direction. Because if you want to concentrate on this business of yours, or if you're writing a book or you're launching a product, it's taking time and it takes mental space to think about it and walk through it and so on. And then on the other side, you have your family who also want to have you around and engaged in what they're doing and so on. So how do you juggle between these two? It feels like opposing forces. What I have found is it's really important to give everything its dedicated time. Yes, you may want to continue to think about and ruminate over ideas that you're having. What I've learned, though, over 30 years is that giving yourself time away from what you're doing is actually a godsend, because it is in that time that you will actually realize what it is that you need to do next. It is not when you're sitting at your desk and you're thinking about what to do and what should it sound like and what's the next best thing and what should be on my priority list and how do I get more business and what does my marketing look like and my branding. All of these things that we worry about day in, day out. And will I be able to pay my bills at the end of the month? Will I have business 3 months from now? If you were able to stop that behavior today and start separating, this is my time when I'm working here, right? This is my time to work on what I'm doing when I'm here at my desk in my office. When I walk out that door, I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to engage with the people around me. I am going to be present in other people's lives. I'm going to be present in my family's life. I'm going to be present when I am doing the next thing after I walk out this door. What happens is you are now easing the pressure off of you, because the pressure can really begin to build. When you are trying to be everything to everyone, it will crush you. You will get burnt out. You will start to resent people. You will not only resent the time that you can't spend on your business, but you will resent the time that you need to spend with your family, because you're going to feel like one is taking away from the other. But if you created a strategy for yourself where you say to yourself, this is my work time now, this is when I'm working on what I need to work on, and most likely you will be more focused when you allot a specific period of time to do that work. And then when it's time to be with your family, let it be that. Don't bring business into it. Talk about other subjects. Ask them questions. Brainstorm ideas with them. Don't leave them outside of the circle of what you're creating. We seem to think that everything lives on its own. Business is separate. Family is separate. My physical wellness is separate. My health is separate. My psychology and emotional they're not. They are all one. You are one beautiful human being that encompasses all of these things that I'm talking about today. So it's important that you understand that the idea is not juggling. The idea is merging, giving each aspect of our life its dedicated time so that we actually get to do it all. What about the time for you? You know, when you're feeling burnout, and I have felt burnout, my goodness, I can't even tell you the number of times. And pulling yourself out of that hole is really hard. And the reason it's really hard is because there are so many emotions involved when you feel burnt out. When you feel as though you've let yourself down, or you've let others down, or you're just unsure of what your next move is, the amount of emotion that's a part of that is it goes everywhere from you're angry, upset, you're irritated, you're frustrated, and then it goes to uncertainty, fear, like you just don't measure up. Like, what if I fail again? What's the point? Why don't I just go and get a job? Right? How many times as an entrepreneur have you asked yourself, maybe I should just go back and get a job? Maybe that would just be easier. Easier. But is it easier? Is it easier sitting in a 9-to-5 job than being your own boss? Is it easier following someone else's rules and regulations and schedules than creating your own? Is that really easier? I don't know. That's something you have to ask yourself as an entrepreneur. I know for myself, I don't think that would be easier. I think I'm happier creating and innovating and expanding who I am. And we only do that through these challenges that we have every time we feel stuck. And it's coming out of the feeling of feeling stuck that we have now leveled up who we are. So redefining what your business looks like, redefining success, redefining who you want to be and what you want to create. It all comes down to, do you know, first of all, what those are? Who are you? This is probably the hardest question that most people have. And if I ask this question of them, they will pause and they'll say, well, I'm not sure what you mean. What do you mean? Who am I? And what I mean is, do you know what makes you happy? Do you know what would actually fulfill you? Because is it chasing money? Or are you chasing freedom? Will money bring you freedom? Will happiness bring you freedom? And are you on the road to that goal? Or have you somehow been deterred and you've gone in a different direction and you just keep falling into these other opportunities just because it's easy, rather than keep following the path that you're trying to get to? But you have to know what that is first. That's where the clarity comes in, because it's very hard to make a decision that makes you feel confident and gives you courage if you don't know where you're going. So the way to overcome the expectations, this heavy weight of expectations, is to know what you want, is to know where you want to go, is to know who you want to be on that journey getting there. And I think that that's where most entrepreneurs, small business owners, or someone who wants to move into the entrepreneurial space, that is the space where they get stuck. And the fear is because of the unknown. The unknown is because you don't have a plan. You don't have a plan because you don't know what you want. So we've got to go all the way back, and we have to start right from the beginning. And we've got to figure out, what do you want, who you are, and where do you really want to get to? Ultimately, what is your goal? Once we have the answers to all those questions, the weight of expectations gets lifted, because we're no longer worried about what society is doing or thinking about us, because we're confident in who we are and what we're doing. We no longer have these very high expectations of everyone around us. Like, why aren't they supporting us? Who cares? Who cares? Do you support you? Are you backing yourself in the endeavor that you're working on? Are you proud of yourself for what you're working on? Are you proud of yourself from where you've come from and where you're at right now? When you can feel confident at these points, that's when the idea and the weight of expectations will be lifted off of you. And if you need help, that is what I do. I help people move from feeling stuck, frustrated, irritated, I'm scared, I don't know what to do next. That is my superpower, is helping you off of that ledge and moving you to the next point of clarity. How do I help you find clarity? I have frameworks and I have assessments that I help my clients through. And once we have that clarity, oh my God, it's like the heavens open, because now we're going to move into the next part of my framework. And then from there, we move to the next part. And what happens is, after a few months, you now have an entire strategy in front of you. You feel confident. You're now happy. You're enthusiastic again. You wake up in the morning and you're thinking, now I know what I'm doing. I can't wait to start getting to what I want to do. It's a challenge, but it's also exciting. You still don't have it all figured out, but you're still curious about what's next. That's what I'm talking about. Do you want to get to that feeling again? Do you want to feel that energy inside you? Do you want to learn to use some AI tools that will just, you don't have to grind anymore? God knows, like, I am not into hustle and grind anymore. I am so done with all of that, because it all ended up being a whole load of, you know what, at the end of the day anyways. What I believe is the ultimate goal is freedom. It is being able to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, with who I want to do it with, and not having to worry or stress about bills and so on, and really run a business. And it's joyful and it's fun. And every day I wake up and say, this is what I love. And I'm doing it with people. And you're helping other people to grow, changing, transforming lives. This, for me, is what freedom means. So if you want the first step into working with me, take the course that I created, which will begin to transform your business in just 70 minutes. It's a very cheap course that I created, but what it will do is it's going to start giving you the foundation. If you say, you know what, Catherine, I actually just want to work with you. Well, then I always have a link below and you can have a discovery call with me. I have a group coaching program that will bring you through with other ambitious entrepreneurs. And everyone moves through the process in their time, but there is a collaboration. There is a community now. And it is amazing what happens when you surround yourself with other people who also have these goals that they want to attain according to their alignment in who they are. And just watching that is something very special. So if you're feeling the weight of expectations, whether it's from yourself, from others, from society, you are not alone, but you have the power to redefine all of it. It just starts with the very first step. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and I will see you again next week. Have a look at the links below. There may be something that interests you, and I hope you like, subscribe, and share this podcast with someone today. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Mindset Medicine. Remember, every step you take toward building a resilient mindset and creating harmony in your life will get you closer to your dreams and that transformation that you've been looking for. If today's episode hit home for you, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback is our fuel. Spread the love. Share this podcast with friends and family. Tag me on Instagram at Catherine Lukedu Coaching. And if you're looking for more tips and resources, head over to CatherineLukeduCoaching.com. Stay connected, stay inspired, and keep living your very best life with harmony and purpose. And until next time, my friends, live boldly with purpose.